First of all, I want to thank everyone for allowing me to go to Haiti and then allowing me to have the privilege of going with 7 other people that couldn't have been a better choice. They did the congregation proud, and they also, we did a lot of good work. And tonight we kind of want to just show you a little bit about what's going on. We're going to do it a little bit different. Instead of you having to listen to me the whole time, we have 3 other gentlemen that this is their first trip ever to Haiti. It's one of them's first trip ever out of the country, and it was quite of an experience for them. So I think from their point of view, I think you will get a lot out of it. Okay. Is it working? Nope. Does it have to be on? Oh, there it is. Okay, there we go. All right. Haiti is actually a beautiful place. This is one of the places we had a little time. I mean, we're talking about a little time. We had to run up this one day because the place closes at 5. We got there at 1, and this is a place called the Citadel, and it was built by the Haitian people for to keep everything safe. And so we're not going to tell you a whole lot about it because it was just something to show us how bad we were out of shape, but it is very high. The only thing that we really appreciated once we got up there was it was up on top of the mountain, and it was below 100 degrees up there. So it was actually pretty nice. We were at the Citadel, the CBT, and again, I just want you to understand the CBT is the Center for Biblical Training, and the church here sponsors the center, and this is where we train preachers to go out in all these various places. And this is down at the bottom. This is the area that we stayed at. The air conditioning was very good. It was called a fan. And the first night, each girl had 2 fans, and the guys shared 2 fans. So after we found that out, we made them give us another fan, but we all survived. The instructors there are up there. There's Fonrose, there's Richard, they're below, Luckner, Joel, Jackie, Edward, and Bruce. Now the ones that we want to give, that we saw, that you're going to hear a lot about tonight is Richard, which is the second one up there, and then Luckner. Both of them, they were very instrumental. Luckner was very instrumental in the first day, and Richard was our interpreter. He went out to each place, and that he helped us a lot. Our schedule was pretty hectic. If you look on, I have a little thing on my phone that tells me how many steps that I go per day, and I maxed it out each day, which was kind of nice, but it wasn't because I walked that much. It was because the roads were so bad, it bounced me so much. And I think each of us logged about 10 to 20 miles a day just by being bounced. But we started out on Saturday, and our basic day was in the mornings. We got ready to go, and then we went and did what was on the schedule. We did vacation Bible schools. We did a couple other you're going to hear about. But at the end of the day, our day wasn't over. Even though we got back, we still had to prepare for the next day, which was tremendous. And there was some nights that we didn't get in bed till after 12 o'clock. The girls stayed up sometimes even later than that. So it was a very tiring day, a very hot day. But what we did was pretty meaningful for the next day, because we had to show everybody a good time the next day in Vacation Bible School, and we wanted to let everyone know about Christ. This is the group that went with us. is that, as you can see, is except for that guy in the back, that half bald-headed guy back there, it's a very nice-looking group, and but they did everyone proud. They presented themselves as Christians. They jumped right in. They did whatever they were asked to do. And then I think, as you're going to hear that not only the lives of Haitian children and the Haiti people were changed, but I think a lot of people's lives were changed also. We're going to do it a little different. We've also asked the ladies to write out a couple things that really impressed them, or what they really thought was meaningful. And so some of them wrote it out, and so some of the guys are going to actually read what they've said. But hopefully you'll get the gist of what we did, and then after they get finished, I'll come back up, and if we have time, I'll talk, but if not, I'll give the invitation.
First, I'd like to say how thankful I am to my church family and all the members of this congregation for everything that you do in support of the work we do in Haiti. I can never express how much I appreciate it, and the other people that went with us, and definitely the Haitians. They all appreciate very much everything that you do. It is a pleasure to share with you my experience. Steve mentioned that some of us had never been on a mission trip or been out of the country. I've never even flown on a plane before. So it was a little intimidating going to another country that is totally different in every way from the one that you grew up in. But it was definitely a good experience, and I would say it was a life-changing experience. So this is the first place we went. This was the church in Camp Louise. As you can see on the right, all the kids are in a school uniform. That's because it's a church and it's their school. And if you'll notice, towards the front, there's like the younger kids, and as it goes backwards, they get older. And the back of that church was much more rowdy than the front. Like they said a lot of obscene things. You don't really know what they're saying, but you know that they probably shouldn't be saying it in the first place. So I guess they kind of like to pick on you because you're different from them, and they know that you're in a different situation. On the left, I'm passing out the pencils. They had the little paper bags that they put all their little goodies in that we gave them that day. And I don't know if you can tell by each one of the pictures that we'll be looking at, but it's very hot. Each one of those places are just super. It's like being outside, but it's way more humid because it's all closed in. There's a bunch of people, but you may be able to tell that in each one of the pictures that we look at. This particular church and school was run by a man by the name of David Augustine. Steve actually told me that David Augustine had been thrown in jail because he had taken some of the funding, I think, like to pay the teachers to feed the students because the students didn't have enough to eat. So that kind of gives you an idea of the situation it is over there. But it was definitely a good introduction to that place and how the kids act over there. And overall, I think it was a pretty good day. That's the school band right there. It kind of caught us all off guard, but I think they were all really happy to play their instruments for us. And I think they just kind of do the best of what they got. Maybe not as much as we're used to when you talk about a school band, but I think they did pretty good. I was entertained. I think that's what they were trying to do there. On the left, that was one of our little stories that the skits we did for the children. That is the Good Samaritan. Steve is our traveler there. I'm a Levite. They all thought that was pretty funny. Steve rolling around on the ground, and he was, making a big scene out of it. And I was a Levite, and if you know anything about the story, I didn't want anything to do with him, so he would grab onto me and I'd knock his hand off, and they all thought that was pretty entertaining. On the right, that was another church that we went to later on in the week, probably. I think that was Richard's church. And I don't know who that kid was. He liked to hang out with me and Carl. We didn't get his name, but he was hanging out with us at the front for most of the day. This is Rose's orphanage. Actually, was not too far away from the CBT. The children at that orphanage, they're pretty accustomed to the American missionaries that come over and play with them and bring them toys and spend time with them. So actually, as we pull up, they hear the truck and they'll get on top. You see the stairs lead up to the roof, and they'll wave at you and jump up and down and yell for you and all that. And they're very touchy. That's another thing. When you come in, they all want to grab your hand, and I guess they don't really see a lot of like white people, so they like to touch your hair, and they're pretty touchy, but it's out of love, so you don't really mind that much. That's the basketball goal that they had. It's I guess just a piece of plywood, and there's a little piece of rebar. I don't know what the tin was there for. It didn't, but they all have a good time, and that's just kind of an embodiment of how it is over there with that they kind of just make do with whatever they got, because they have a good time on that. I think American kids have probably won a better basketball goal than that, but over there they don't care. They play on it all day, and they're really happy to play with you on it. This is still at Rose's. That's their swing set. You see at the bottom left there is a seesaw. The pieces for that seesaw and that swing set were donated by the Timmons family. So we're all very thankful to the Timmons, and definitely the kids at Rose's orphanage. They all had a good time on that, and we're all very appreciative. Oh, one more thing about that. I don't know if you can see, but to the right, that's their well. That's where all the water comes from, that big cement hole in the ground. And I think sometimes we complain about city water, and that's all I got is that big cement hole in the ground to get all their water out of. On the left, that's still at Rose's, and that's like on top of the building. I mentioned earlier they all go up there, and there's no handrails or anything, which would really worry, I think, most people over here in America. But over there, it's just not. There's big pieces of rebar sticking out of the ground and stuff, but they don't care. They still go up there and play. And on the right, that's I'm on the truck there that we rode from place to place in, and I don't know if you can tell, but I'm pretty sweaty. And that's actually because at the CBT there's a basketball goal, and me and Carl took full advantage of that, and pretty much any opportunity we got to go play basketball, that's what we were doing. So it definitely didn't help that it's like 95 degrees over there with the humidity. But that's kind of how everybody is the whole time you're over there. You're just sweaty, and you just don't really. You eventually forget like how hot it is and how miserable you were when you first got there. Lastly, I'd like to read what Amanda McCaney had to say to the congregation. She said, "Going on this trip was such a humbling experience. This is my second mission trip and out of the country, but the timing of this trip was much needed for me. I enjoyed getting to experience the trip with the group that we had go, and learned why Haiti means so much to Donna and Steve. I know we made a huge impact on some of those little souls, but they will never know the impact they had on me. I would sweat that much again in a heartbeat. There was one person there in particular who made a huge impact on me. You have heard him talked about before, but Richard and his passion to spread the word truly inspired me. His story of becoming Christian and the joy he has when speaking to those babies was one of my favorite parts of this trip. His story is a little long, but I would love to tell you more about him outside of this presentation. I'm already planning to go back the next trip and hopefully take Richie with me. There were many memories that the pictures could never fully show, and I will cherish them forever." I think we all kind of feel the same way that Amanda does. I think we all had a life-changing experience. It was a great experience for all of us, and I think we all feel the same way and are equally emotional about going back, and I think all of us do want to go back. I know I do for sure. That's all I got, and now I'll turn it over to Carl.
Ooh. This makes me more nervous than the actual trip itself. Let's see. We'll go to the pictures. I want to thank y'all first of all. I had a great experience. It's definitely life-changing. Couldn't thank y'all enough. I don't have the words to say. I enjoyed it. This is me being Jesus in our VBS skits. Was not nervous at all to do that. I was more nervous to do this. So I had a great time though. These are, what'd I just do? I wanted to speak about, I guess, opportunity. I think in America, the opportunity that we have here, we don't fully grasp that. These kids wake up every day and they live that. They don't have that opportunity to go out, and they're almost born into what they are, or what their choices are going to be for the day, if that makes any sense. There's the school, they don't have the choice to go to school, where we take for granted where our children have education or free education at that. I think schools are paid for, correct? You have to pay for the most part once you get, what's your grade? First through? No, they have to pay. That's what I thought. The opportunities that we have here in America that most people don't have. They don't have vehicles to go somewhere. They don't have the modes of transportation and stuff. They walk miles to get to this BBS there every day. I had this all planned out, and I'm not the best. Each day, it was just a blessing every day to hang out with these kids, to enjoy, and hundreds of kids, I'm terrible at this. This was at Pister. This was the last day, I believe, that we went, and as you can tell, it's a wood building, little wood shelter with tent on the roof and open air, heat, and there's over 100 kids there, I believe. Uh-oh. I'm already at my end. So, I'm going to read what Aubrey wrote to y'all. To say that Haiti was a life-changing experience would be a complete understatement. Have seen pictures and heard stories of my mom for the past 13 years. I had an idea of what I would experience on this trip. However, stories and pictures don't quite do it justice. I came back noticing the little things like how much food I would leave on my plate, how much money I would spend on unnecessary things, how much I take for granted in general. That being said, two things really stood out to me. I'll start with the GOAT project. As most of you know, we helped fund the GOAT project at Richard's congregation. While we were in Haiti, after VBS at his congregation, many, if not all, the members that had goats from this project brought them by school for us to see. It was amazing to see how excited and proud they were of the goats that they had. Food is so scarce there that the fact that they keep their original goat alive to help it reproduce is a major accomplishment. They understand that if they can keep their one goat alive, they are able to benefit from it much more than if they killed it quickly for 1 or 2 meals. They understand the consequences of killing their goats and know that if it's hard not to, they can't and they shouldn't. It is amazing to see how proud they were of their goats. Everyone wanted to make sure we saw theirs and knew it belonged to them. And they also wanted to make sure that we took a lot of pictures of them. And the other thing was the VBS. Another thing that really stood out to me, and it's probably more so because we had VBS yesterday at our congregation, was the turnout at the Vacation Bible School in Haiti. Just for one example, at the first day at St. Augustine, at David Augustine's, we were told that there were going to be 100 kids there, so we packed 125 lunches and crafts and everything, and ended up being 170. So to say we were overwhelmed would be an understatement. Everyone was a little frantic because we didn't have enough supplies and crafts and bowls and spoons, but in the end we figured it out. Now this is her speaking. I speak for myself when I say I was a little worried about all the kids that came out. I felt on that first day like it was too many kids and we weren't prepared for that many. Later in the week, and now looking back, I know that it's better to have more kids than fewer kids. These children and adults had to travel miles on foot to attend our VBS. We had people waiting for us when we got there, and the people still coming until we left. All that being said, it shocked me that to see the turnout for the VBS yesterday. In America, we have an easier way of getting places. For example, cars. Most of us don't work 7 days a week. It really struck me that 100 to 200 kids and adults came to VBS Bible School in Haiti. Every day where they work, day in and day out, to find and prepare food, make money, and they have no means of transportation. But here in America, where we are able to come, we have so much smaller turnout. That could obviously be for many different reasons, but it's something that really stood out to me after Haiti. To wrap it up, the entire trip, in one word, it would be amazing. There's not enough time to tell the world and all the memories. But what stood out the most, these are the things that all stood out the most. So that's from her, and I'm pretty much done because I don't like this. So I'll pass it to Todd. Thank y'all.
Let me see if I can figure this out. I don't know if Steve, this one? I don't know if Steve knew what he was getting into. I'm such a dynamic public speaker, I don't know if he knew what was going on. When we got there Saturday, I got off the plane and we were running. Seemed like we didn't have a chance to put our bags down, and we went to Luckner's church the very first time. Heard some good singing and preaching, and then he took us to another one of his churches, and church. It was really neat the way they built the church. And they do all this by hand, mix their own cement, make their own blocks and stuff. But so we went in the sanctuary and we heard some really beautiful singing. The Haitian people really know how to sing. They don't hold back at all. And Luckner said a few words, and they were at the end of the service, and we had a skit from the Bible, Daniel in the lion's den. And after that, most of us were standing in the back of the sanctuary, and Luckner, he's pointing in the back and he's saying, come up here, and Carl and I and Logan are in the back, and I'm looking behind me. He said, is he talking to me? And he says, come on up, yes, you. And so I said, oh my goodness, what is he going to ask me to do? And my hands are sweating. I'm going to fall down and pass out before I get up there. And sure enough, he asked me to give a closing prayer. And I was like, well, if you're sure you want me to do that. But this came to my mind. This is a special verse for Andrea and I. It's Psalms 27:1. I'd like to read it to you. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is stronghold on my life. When shall I be afraid? And that kind of helped me out a little bit walking up to the front of the sanctuary. And so we started to pray, and the good thing about having a translator is you got a few minutes or a few seconds to think about what you're going to say next. And he was translating, and of course he was translating Creole. It sure did sound a lot better than what I was saying. I think he was embellishing a little bit. He made it sound a little better, but we got through it, and it must not have been that bad because he asked me to pray again later on in the week. This is one of the churches we stopped at, and we did the Bible skits for these children. They seem to love it. They seem to really appreciate being able to see the skit as well as hear it. And this is outside the church again too. And you see the children just love to come up and see what you have or see what you're doing. And like Carl said and Logan said, they really like to touch you, and they all had smiles on their face. That was really, really dynamic. And this is the orphanage. Of course, they jump right on your lap, and see, he's got on my bracelet. He already had that the first 5 minutes. But they're fantastic. They are absolutely wonderful. We gave out some necklaces, and they loved it, the girls and the boys. And this is a funny story. Steve Cox asked Carl and I to be the lions with the skit for the Daniel and the Lion's Den. And of course we said okay, but he said, look, you guys need to be a little more, we want to get the kids' attention, so y'all need to be a little aggressive, a little louder. And we did it 4 or 5 times for different churches, and the first were pretty lame. We weren't very good lions, and Steve kept saying, you need to get aggressive, man. And I think I speak for Carl too. There were some small kids in there. We didn't really want to scare them. But by the end of the week, we had a couple of them crying and running to their mother, so I think we did a pretty good job. So we got better. I don't think we'll win Academy, but we did better. Yeah, this is one of the churches that they just started to build, but you can see how they do it. They kind of do it in sections. They raise a little money, then they build a little more. This is another, we're trying to be the ferocious lions in this one. But yeah, we got a little better by the end of the week. We look pretty scary up there, don't we? Now, this is something we got to do that was kind of special. And I'm so glad we got to do it. It's kind of a neat story. We had Riley t-shirts, we print up every year. And Southpaw does a great job for us, but they printed them backwards. And Andre had this great idea to try to buy those back for them. So we went to Southpaw, and they said, no, you can't buy them back, but we'll give them to you. So we were one of the VBS at the complex. We had maybe 120 kids, and we had about that many t-shirts. So it was a blessing to be able to give those t-shirts out to all these kids and tell them the story about Riley. And it was neat to see all these kids running around the grounds with Riley t-shirts on. And I do want to thank the congregation. We couldn't have done this without your support, spiritually and financially. We were there representing you as a congregation, and thank you.
As for the others, people that went on, that's the first time I've ever seen Carl not be able to say something. We put him in the front of the truck one time, and the 2 Haitians were in there, and they were talking Creole, and Carl was just talking. And they tried to act like they were sleeping. Carl was still talking. Then finally, all of them were there, and they I think the only person, thank goodness, that was awake was the driver, so it was good. One of the things I wanted to let you guys know that we did, I know they touched on it, we actually, in the red area, that's the area that we covered. Over to the right is kind of what we have done, if you want to kind of group it together. The vacation Bible schools that you did, the ones that Carl said with all those people in there, we went to 5 vacation Bible schools, 5 churches, different churches, and we had right at 700 people, 700 kids, not including the adults. It's quite a bit. We only prepared for 600 for the whole week, but this is, we had to buy some extra stuff, but you know, the Haitians have a thing that they just, you know, if it works out, it works out. Just hand it out till it's gone. And then that's just the way they do. But we did the vacation Bible schools. We actually, through your help, we were able to feed them. We fed them. I'll show you some food that we fed them. We fed them. We actually gave them candy and, well, what we thought was candy, you know, little cereal and stuff. And it was just something that was a very good treat to them. And it was great to see all of them. I want to tell you about the 700. They limited it to that. The one place we went out on the street, they actually gave tickets out, and this is all they were going to give, because we said we can only do about this much. We asked about how many can we do, and they said we can easily double that if we wanted to. It kind of scared us, because we're not sure. We were barely could take care of the numbers that we had, but there's a lot of kids that really want to learn a lot about the Bible. The goats, well, I'll show you some goats, and we named some of the goats. I told the story about the goats, and I'll tell that in a minute, but we did the goats, and we were able to find out that the goat program basically was kind of working really well. It was almost self-supporting at this one location. And so they wanted to take what the money that we had and that we were going to give them and put it toward another location and help other people. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that. At the churches, we preached on Sunday. We offered a little bit of help to some of the people. And we had this thing called story time each night that we wanted to find out, you know, we asked all the group, what was something that really stuck out in their minds that day? And it was kind of interesting to know. And I think you can understand what was really interesting to them. We went to 2 orphanages. We went to an elderly home, went to some schools, boxes of clothes and school supplies, toys and candy. We handed out a lot of that. And the total contribution of this location that your love and support gave was almost $10,000. And we were able to use that for the Haitian people. One of the places we went to was an elderly home, and it was a real nice place. There was a lot of great people. It was only about 14 there. There's a lot more elderly out there. We've been on other trips that they just put them out and just let them fend for themselves. But this was actually a nice home that Luckner kind of supports. We were able to give him a little bit of money to help feed them. We gave them a little goodie bag, some flip-flops and some other things. And one of the things that I think meant a whole lot to them, we gave them a little brooch that they just thought that was something. I mean, they really did. And this person that Teresa's with right there, I'm going to tell a little bit more about him in a minute, but he was very appreciative. This is a man that he was blind and he was in this home, and he really, really liked the attention that he got. Our GOAT program, again, like I told you last time, we set it up. We have the Haitians take care of it. We have some men that basically overlook that, and they give them shots. They make sure everything's being taken care of. And the way that it works is we give them a goat, and they had a male goat that they take around and help out to make it more goats. And they're supposed to give back the first and the fifth goat, and then we take that goat and we give it to another family. When the goats come back, they're self-supporting. They're not little baby kids. They're full-grown goats. And one of the things that they do with these goats, that it's a meat thing. So for you that we're naming them, I'm sorry that we might have to say this is going to be lowest 1 and lowest 2 and lowest 3. But one of the funny things that I told some of the people that had the goats that brought them, I told him that I mentioned that we can name the goats after that. I told them about you, and I told them that that some of you wanted the goats to be named after you, and they laughed. I mean, it was something really funny to them. And they said, we want those names, and so you're going to have your names all over Haiti. So these are some of the ones. It was on a Wednesday that we went. This was market day for them, and so some of the ones, the owners of the goats, they could not be there, so they got their neighbors to bring us the goats so we can see. And it was real touching that they thought enough about, they're so proud of these goats. What these goats mean to them, it's sort of like a savings account to them. They have a goat. If they get sick, they can actually sell that goat and they can go to the doctor. So it was a little bit of security for them. This is a savings account for them, basically. This is Richard. I think he's squeezing this goat a little bit too much. This is little Lois. And that's, you can tell because of mouth. Just kidding. Just kidding. Like I said, they had a lot of little goats, and some of the girls had to carry the goats. We also did a roof project. We had a church family here that every year they give us quite a bit of money. They sacrifice, their whole family sacrifices money, and this roof that you see behind us, this is what they did with that money. This is at a church. It's one of the biggest Church of Christ in this area. They have about 300 members. There's no chairs in this place, so these members will actually take their chairs from home and they'll bring their chairs with them. And they will sit up here, and there's a roof under most of it, and they're planning on making a second story out of it so that they can do it. But this is where that money went, and concrete. I mean, Carl and Logan are both with a construction company, and they were amazed at how they did concrete up there, 5-gallon buckets at a time, and it's amazing how much work they can get. Logan's not in jail, which sometimes we were glad that with all the kids running around, we were glad we had that protection. But this is one of the pictures I thought was funny because this is one of the vacation Bible schools we went was actually out on the street. And in the street, we were actually in the church building, and we came out, and we had this little, probably a 10-foot by 5-foot area that we did our skits in. And it was in the mud, and so the Good Samaritan had to get muddy that day, and but it was really fun. And being on the street, we actually started out with a certain amount, but as the day grew, we got more and more and more people that was actually out there. And we had a lot of people out there that just stood out there and listened to us that didn't get anything. They were just people that was on the streets, and they stayed They stayed for around 3.5 to 4 hours. That's how long our Bible school lasts. And you can imagine them being in this heat and all for 3 or 4 hours. Some of the pictures, I wanted to make sure that I did have pictures of the ladies here. This was a little girl that Teresa almost brought home. She kind of saw Teresa, and she never left her side. And what was the funny thing about it, you can't really see it, you can a little bit, but her nose ran the whole time we were there. And so we don't know. But Teresa kind of attracted a lot of kids. Then Amanda, she just, she got out there and she played, and just like all of us, and she just had a good time. I know these pictures mean a lot to them because they've seen these kids. The other thing, Logan talked about how much they sweat, and you really don't understand how much they sweat. Well, he said you get used to it. No, you don't. You don't get used to it. But we all smelled real good about this time, and but it's like I said, we all just jumped in and got to see the kids. And then we got Donna, and Donna had this good time. And this is this guy I wanted to tell you about. This guy, he's blind. He goes in and he grabs Donna's arm and he starts slobbering all over her arm, kissing her arm and all that. And Donna said, "Hey guys, this is how I need to be treated all the time." And so and he actually grabbed the guy's hand. We shake it, and I was, "Oh no, we don't have to have ours kissed." Yeah, but like I said, he really enjoyed himself. And this is, we went to a school building, and our new school teacher found out that they use whips in the schools. And so Donna was signing something, and I think she was trying to learn how to do this. Which brings us into Aubrey. Aubrey, the younger people, when they go, they attract the younger people, and they really have a good time. They come in, and like I said, the kids, when you hold the babies, they don't have Pampers like we have here. You hold a baby, they're wet. And sometimes they don't even have anything on. But you hold the babies, and that's just the way things are. So you just have to just go with it. The kids were great. They thoroughly enjoyed everything that we were doing. They enjoyed the attention. These kids, I asked the guys at the CBT, Richard, they never had a vacation Bible school before. The kids really haven't had anything toward them. And so it was a real treat. We had a lot of people. This picture here is kind of funny. We had the egg hunt where we put candy in the eggs and we hid them. And this was up a hill. And we made the mistake the first time. You know how each time you learn from your mistakes? We just let them all go out at one time. And man, I tell you what, that was hilarious. I didn't want anywhere around them. But then we found out that when you set them down, there's so many little ants and insects that sometimes they get inside the egg. So like I said, they didn't care. They just moved them out and ate stuff anyway. But like I said, there's a lot of times that the kids and the groups and everything, it was just incredible about the amount of attention that we had. This is the food that what we did. We sent out money early, and so that way we had the food already there, and they prepared the food there. And it was rice and beans. There's a little piece of chicken, as you can see right there. And a lot of them, I guess they watch some of the chef shows in America, but they had to put garnish on them. And the garnish was usually on the ground because the kids can care less about the garnish, but it was pretty, and the food smelled really good. And it's amazing what you will eat when you are out in the hot all the time and you're hungry. And all we've been eating is little beanie weenies, and this food smelled real good. They put a little soup broth in there, and they usually have a piece of chicken, but they went really, really well. The kids ate every bit of it. And this is kind of how everything was made. They make it in a big pot. They spoon it out. It's not actually as clean as what we're used to, but this is just how they make it. And this is Teresa's little girl that I'm going to close this presentation with. We almost left her there because we put her behind the podium and she went to sleep, and we were cleaning up, and we went back there and we went, oh, we left one. And that was her. She went to sleep. One of the things we all want to tell you is how much we appreciate each and every one of you. We've had 30 contributors that contributed above and beyond, but every one of you contributed. We had a lot of, the church gave some money to it to help, so we all appreciate everything that you guys do, not only in financial, but the prayers and all the behind the scenes things. We had some people help us with the projects that we did, and we had a lot of people, so it was, we always told everywhere we went that we just represented the church at Charlotte Avenue. So we want to thank you guys for the prayers and everything that you have done for each and every one of us. In Haiti and in mission trips, we have a lot of precedent to do it. Luke 10 verse 2 says, "The harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. Ask the Lord of harvest, therefore, to send out the workers into his harvest field." Again, in John 20 verse 21, it says, "Peace be with you. As the Father sent me, so I am sending you." And then in Galatians 6:9, it says, "Let us not be weary in well-doing, for in due season we will reap, if we faint not. As we have therefore opportunity, let us do good unto all men, especially unto them who are the household of faith." And this is what we do when we go on mission trips, whether it's Haiti, whether it's Kenya. We reach out and we try to spread the word. We hope that during our vacation Bible school, our theme was the life of Christ. And we taught about the birth of Christ all the way up to his ministry. It took 4 hours, and the kids understood what was going on. We pray that we have planted a seed in their hearts, in their lives, and we pray that we did plant that seed, that it can be harvested. But also this invitation not only goes to the Haitians, but it also goes to each and every one of us. We do good. We love God. We try to present God in a way to each and every body that we're around. And we are also doing mission work throughout your friends and your life, just like we did here. We want to give an invitation tonight. We want to say if there is someone here that needs to come forward for any reason, whether you have never been a Christian before, we pray that today is that day that you put on Christ. But if you are someone who needs some prayers, needs some help with the church, we pray that you will do it now as we stand and sing.